Good afternoon. On behalf of the Hamtramck Public Library and our library board, I would like to welcome everyone. My name is Tamara Sochacka, I'm the library director. Today's program, the State of the City Address, is an annual event to inform the public of past accomplishments and the future plans of the city as seen from the perspective of our city officials. And so it is my pleasure to introduce our mayor, the mayor of the city of Hamtramck, serving in her second term of office, Honorable Dr. Karen Majewski.
Thank you, Tamara. Thanks everybody for coming. I know this is an incredibly busy weekend. There's a ton of stuff going on, so I really appreciate your being able to make it today. Probably juggling this between several other appointments, so I especially appreciate it. I want to recognize a few folks who are here. First of all, our elected officials. Wayne County Commissioner Mo Blackwell. Our State Representative Bert Johnson. Our State Senator Martha G. Scott. I want to recognize our School Superintendent Tom Nechai. And our elected school board members, if you would please stand, including Mrs. Yvonne Myrick, who is also a member of the library board. We'll have her standing up again in a few minutes. I want to recognize our city employees, especially if you would all stand, including our city manager, Bill Cooper. Our elected officials, our city elected officials, Mayor Pro Tem Katrina Stackpole, City Councilwoman Kathy Gordon. I also want to recognize folks on our city commissions. Historical Commission, we'll be having a lot to say about the Historical Commission in a minute, if you guys would please stand. Any members of the Beautification Commission here? Housing Commission? Everybody's out of town this weekend. That's what happens when you wait till the middle of June. But I'll tell you, why I wait is because there's always so much going on, and I keep waiting until we cross this threshold or that threshold, and so it's always a kind of trade-off to decide when to do this. So we're pushed back into the middle of the summer, and I realize it's an inconvenience for a lot of folks. Anybody here from the Human Relations Commission? How about the Recycling Commission? I know we have some representatives. All right. The Library Board. And all our library employees. They've done a fantastic job here on this event, as they do on so many events. I've had someone stop me and tell me how, and they didn't have to tell me, what a great resource and what a gem we have here in the Hamtramck Public Library. I want to make sure that all those folks are recognized.
Absolutely.
We have some representatives from the Plan Commission, if you would please stand. Anybody from the ZBA? We also, how about block clubs? We've got a lot of community groups, a lot of stuff going on in Hamtramck.
It's a great community.
That's, you bet. NAACP local chapter, if you would please stand. Simona and Mrs. Myrick, and I'm sure some other folks as well who may be too shy to stand up. Our Hatch, Hamtramck Arts Collective, if you would please stand, members. Our Weed and Seed folks working on various block clubs, various initiatives of the Weed and Seed. You, Ian. And especially also I want to recognize our media who are here, including our Weed and Seed representative here. So all those folks who are out at the beach today or at the Bangladeshi festival or wherever they may be will still be able to find out what happened today. I know you're here because we share a common concern about what the future has in store for Hamtramck. We all care deeply about this place. Many of us have invested not just our money, but our hearts and our souls in this impossible little city, this global village. We all want to know where it stands and even whether it can stand. I deeply appreciate your concerns and your commitment. The city needs you, your neighbors and your neighborhood needs you, and I need you as well in order to move forward together. Nothing is ever easy in Hamtramck, but we wear that as a kind of badge of courage. No one is here because we're the kind of people who look for the easy way. I think rather there's something of the spirit of the immigrant built into the bones of this city. A spirit focused on a hope of the future, unknown, sometimes frightening, but waiting to be shaped by our willing hands. I think that Hamtramck attracts people of faith and vision, intrepid, imaginative, willing to stare uncertainty in the face, and on a wing and a prayer, roll up our sleeves and get our hands dirty, doing honest, productive, and challenging work. We know that no one will step in and do that work for us. That makes our task harder, but it also makes it ours, our responsibility and our achievement. So let me talk a little bit about the achievements of the past year. It's no small thing. With the biggest economic downturn since the Great Depression staring us in the face, that we've been able to accomplish so much. And the difficulties we still face shouldn't diminish our recognition that so many people are working so hard to keep our projects moving ahead, step by sometimes tedious step. It may not be romantic, but because brick really builds upon brick, some of the projects I've been telling you about for a few years now have finally come to fruition. One of these is the beautiful new Department of Human Services building on Joseph Campo, which opened early this year. It replaced the old Woody Pontiac dealership, which had stood vacant and blighted for a decade. The former DHS building on Denton is, I'm told, slated to be torn down and the site redeveloped. The traffic light replacement, we can see it from here, along Caniff between Lumpkin and Buffalo has been completed with the help of a federal $475,000 congestion mitigation and air quality improvement grant. All the lights are now energy efficient and are sequenced for better traffic control. This means, by the way, that one of our Hamtramck oddities, of which we have many, is now a thing of the past. The lights at McKay and Brombeck in front of the fire station are no longer stop and proceed with caution lights. This will take a little getting used to, so I hope that you don't do what I did a couple of weeks ago and still turn left on a red at McKay. And speaking of energy efficiency, a $98,000 grant has also allowed us to do an energy audit and will cover some upgrades to city buildings. And with a $400,000 U.S. Environmental Protection Agency grant, we've been able to test about 50 residential and commercial properties around the city for possible environmental hazards so that redevelopment plans for those sites could proceed. Not all of these projects are visible to residents, but they are essential and costly steps in an overall strategic plan for cleaning up blighted properties, facilitating development projects already underway, and making vacant sites marketable to new businesses. Another component in that strategy is the $1 million US EPA grant the city has received to set up its own revolving loan fund to help fill financing gaps in redevelopment projects. One project that's nearing completion is our new city master plan, funded with a $90,000 grant from the state of Michigan. This plan will include an economic development strategy, land use plan, recommended updates to our zoning ordinance, as well as recreation and arts and culture plans, making it a model of best practices in the master plan process that all cities undergo. I thank all of you who've provided input so far. Some of you did it right here in the library. The completed plan will be presented for review by our interface studio partners next month, and we'll have a chance to tweak it again before final adoption this fall. And in case you're wondering what's going on with the sidewalks on Brombeck, what you're seeing is the first phase of our Safe Routes to Schools grant, which brought us $956,000 to make it safer for our children to walk to school by replacing sidewalks, installing speed indicators, and providing safety education programming. I want to especially thank the Hamtramck Public Schools and Access, the Arab Community Center for Economic and Social Services, for working closely with the city to make this program possible.
Let's take care of Kniff.
The construction will be, there's one in every crowd. And Hamtramck, there's usually more than one. The construction will be going on all summer and will include new sidewalks the entire length of Brombeck and McKay from Holbrook to Carpenter, as well as sections of Buffalo, Edwin, Norwalk, Doremus, Berger, Casimir, and Grayling. I'm just sorry Pulaski isn't on that list. But construction won't be ending with sidewalks. The city received $1,400,000 in neighborhood stabilization funds, called NSP1 funds, through Wayne County, which leveraged against approximately $1.48 million in HUD home funds, will be used to acquire, rehabilitate, and sell approximately 30 homes on scattered sites throughout the city in partial fulfillment of the long-standing R31 lawsuit. We've been working overtime to fulfill our requirements under the consent decree for the last several years. And this year, the components, including all the funding, are finally in place. An essential piece of that funding is the $15,439,679 in NSP2 monies we are receiving to acquire, deconstruct, and demolish blighted housing, acquire and rehabilitate affordable housing, and develop and manage affordable new housing. And finally, the state of Michigan through MISHDA is funding a $9 million project to rehab and build 35 rental homes. With these new funding sources in place, we now know how we will create the 104 remaining housing units to uphold our end of the consent decree. The longest running racial discrimination lawsuit in our nation's history is coming to a close. I will have much more to say about this when the keys are finally turned over on that 104th home. And I won't be the only one. But for now, let me say thank you to our advocates and friends at MISHDA and to our city attorney, Jim Allen, for all they've done to weave these complex pieces together in a way that's acceptable to the plaintiffs and workable in this difficult financial climate. This is the work that goes on behind the scenes and is often unsung, but that has historic, game-changing impact on the city. While so much work is by nature invisible, other projects are meant to be seen, like the Downtown Development Authority's Facade Improvement Program, which helps businesses upgrade their exteriors and has now expanded to offer this benefit not just to businesses in the downtown district, but throughout the city. With so many projects at different stages of the process, we expect by next summer that at least 11 more businesses will have brand new facades in and around downtown Hamtramck. The DDA has also finished installation of public safety cameras to monitor much of Joseph Campo, segments of Belmont, Mitchell, Eveline, and Norwalk streets, as well as the old Shoppers World parking lot. Those cameras are now up and running as part of our public safety toolkit. Another component, Another component of that toolkit are the new radios for the police and fire departments, secured with a $200,000 Homeland Security grant, and patrol car mobile data computers our police department is acquiring with the help of $30,000 in communication grant money supplemented by drug forfeiture funds. Last year, there is a lot going on, and there are a lot of resources coming into this city to make these things happen. Last year, when I spoke to you here, we were just preparing to name our new police chief. So this year, although he's probably on the beach somewhere, I want to officially welcome Chief Marek Kalinowski, though he's been on the job in his new position for about a year, and of course had a long history in the force and in our city before taking on this new position. I don't think we could hope for a chief more devoted to the city and more responsive to all our residents. While I'm on the subject of the police department, I also want to make sure that you all know that Officer Brian Mishak was able to return to active duty with us this year. I'm sure most of you remember when Officer Mishak was shot during the blackout of 2003, costing him part of his arm and elbow. And I'm sure you all know, you all join me in thanking him and welcoming him back. I also want to congratulate our two officers of the year, David Donnell and Gregory Collins. They're probably on the job. Our fire department is also making improvements. Chief Peruk received a $247,500 grant for a new pumper, as well as a combined $73,000 for other safety equipment in addition to the radios mentioned above that go to the police and fire. The new pumper should arrive around February of next year, and I'm sure we'll be having it blessed at St. Florian's, just like the new engine we brought on board in 2009. And I hope that next year I'll be reporting that the department will receive the grant funding it's applied for a much-needed aerial ladder truck. The department continues to score well in national ratings and proved its mettle in the Sterling Services fire last August. What could have been a disaster was handled with the highest level of professionalism and dedication. In fact, many partners, including the Hamtramck Police, the employees of the Hamtramck Housing Commission, neighboring fire departments and agencies, and Marathon Oil Company all came together seamlessly with our Hamtramck firefighters to make us all proud and to keep us safe. You may have noticed all the talk across the state about intergovernmental cooperation. Our fire and police departments have long-standing cooperative agreements with other departments. But this year, our finance department has also contracted with the City of Highland Park to provide its income tax services. Like most projects, this has hit a few snags along the way, but as it goes forward, will be a source of new income for Hamtramck. In addition, our finance department has negotiated the reallocation of our MERS retirement account, resulting in a savings of about $900,000 to the city. For this, I want to recognize our finance director, Nevris Nazarko. He has worked miracles in what has to seem at times like an impossible job, and in what I know is usually a thankless one. I meet with a lot of elected and appointed officials, as well as representatives of public agencies and businesses all around the state, and many of them have let me know that Mr. Nazarko is well known and well respected among them. But I'm willing to bet he's not envied. So, especially as we face some frightening times ahead, I want you to remember that we have very smart, capable, and experienced heads at work on our problems. I think we should listen to them. But I want to talk about a few other projects around town before I return to the looming question of our finances. Because I want you to see how much we've been able to do even in these times, and how much is in progress, and how much is at stake as we look ahead and consider our options. One of the programs that we nearly lost in this year's budget process was our Downtown Development Authority. I've already noted the facade improvements and security cameras that the DDA has brought us. But let me bring up some more DDA activities that you may not know about. Besides working on projects like the Labor Day Festival, for which the DDA provides the liquor license and other support, Paczki Day, sidewalk sales and regular merchant meetings, holiday decorations, Hamtramck Clean Sweep and graffiti removal in cooperation with Hamtramck's Weed and Seed program. The DDA is a member of the new Downtowns of Promise initiative, which will create a 5-year strategic plan and other assessment tools for our downtown, providing $45,000 worth of services at a cost of just $4,500 to the DDA. This is good strategy. Coupled with that program, the DDA is an associate in the Main Street program, which, as we progress toward full membership, provides free training and a grocery list of support services to downtowns in order to spur economic development through historic preservation and community partnerships. Besides improving our downtown, the DDA works on multiple ways of promoting it, most notably through the Detroit Metro Convention and Visitors Bureau, through which Hamtramck is publicized as an historic tourist destination, resulting in group tours from around the state and from Northern Ohio, as well as film industry opportunities. The DDA and our Community and Economic Development Department are currently working together on an upcoming vacant property open house to help commercial and residential property owners fill their vacancies or find buyers for their properties. And they are also working together to oversee a MISHTA grant that will provide up to $35,000 per unit for the renovation of second-story residential units in our downtown district. This is part of a strategy advocated nationwide that recognizes the unique attractions of urban neighborhoods, especially for young, well-educated residents. Hamtramck is well situated to take advantage of this trend among a rapidly growing demographic with an entrepreneurial spirit and high earning potential. But we simply can't afford to sit back and hope these folks notice we're here, while other communities are out selling themselves. We need to continue making our downtown more attractive and more marketable, and we need to retain and promote what assets we already have. That's why the Community and Economic Development Department is part of a team which also includes the Michigan Economic Development Corporation, Wayne County, Michigan Works, the Detroit Economic Growth Corporation, and the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers that meets with one business per week to identify any assistance we can provide to retain businesses and employers in Hamtramck. It's another project that you probably don't see that goes on every day. And that is why the department has been busy in the past year actively marketing our properties in print and through the web, and why those efforts will only expand in the next year. In the next couple of months, we hope the department's ongoing negotiations with SMART will result in the reestablishment and expansion of the Hamtramck shuttle to include stops tying the city of Hamtramck into the Amtrak station, the Woodward bus line, the proposed Woodward Light Rail, Eastern Market, and the Wayne State CCS Cultural Center area of Detroit. I'm really excited about that stuff. Now, if only the commuter rail would go to Ann Arbor, I'd be set. And on a related transportation note, Community and Economic Development continues to work with Preserve Our Parks, Cities of Promise Task Force, Michigan Trails and Greenways Alliance, Wayne County, and the City of Detroit to secure funding for the development of the Hamtramck Trail and to connect the city to a proposed 450-mile regional trail network. You can imagine that in the current economic climate, development is a difficult field to be in. No doubt that is the reason that some of the projects I spoke about last year are still works in progress. These include the Nassant site, future proposed home of green power technologies, the Hausner building at Joseph Campo in Belmont, which will contain offices, residential lofts, and Flavors restaurant, the former Citizen building, which will combine office and residential space, the Mitchell Street Townhomes project, which is still working to secure financing and incentives. We are all watching the work on Gandhi Restaurant and the renovation of the old North Detroit Hospital complex on both sides of Carpenter as it is transformed into a charter high school. We welcome the new and expanded businesses of the past year, including Aladdin's, International Motors, and the new Mars Bar. And we regret the closing of old Hamtramck standbys like Flowers by Ed. Changes like these, some sad, some hopeful, are just evidence that Hamtramck is a living, breathing, evolving city. A city with a colorful and influential past and a future which our actions in the present are helping shape. No project is more symbolic of that past and present. Then, they prepared this year than the Hamtramck Historical Museum, which will be created in the former Polish League of American Veterans post-war building on Old West. You all know that this has been a particular dream of mine, but it will be a reality for all of you because of years of planning and hard work by our Historical Commission, especially its president, Greg Kowalski. Our supporters throughout the city and state, our Cities of Promise team, and a whole extended community of as yet unknown participants, and I think I'm looking at a lot of them, I hope now. I hope all of you will participate in this project in one way or another. There will be many ways to help. Expect to be called upon, because more than anything, this museum is a tribute to those who built and are continuing to build Hamtramck. There will be much to be said and much to be done as the building is transformed, as artifacts are transferred, as programs develop and fundraising begins. This is just a new stage in a long process, but it is a crowning achievement to have taken this step. And although it is an historical museum, it is evidence that the city believes in not just its past, but its future. So let me talk about the future. I'm glad you're sitting down. Some of you know the Polish Muslim song, "We're not going bankrupt." Well, I wish I could tell you that we aren't. But the truth is, if the present perfect storm continues and nothing changes in our situation, we could be right back in receivership before this time next year, and probably well before. This is not because we've misspent. It's not because we've squandered your tax dollars. In fact, as you know, since we came out of emergency financial management in November of 2007, no mean feat in itself, we've managed to create a healthy reserve, a rainy day fund to cover emergencies and unforeseen expenses. We've been paying down our debt, performing at a par with other financially stable communities, of which there are fewer and fewer, and passing audits with no major issues. All that while our property taxes were kept lower than those of surrounding communities like Detroit, Highland Park, and Harper Woods. That does not happen through mismanagement or short-sightedness, but through sound and balanced management. Yet now, like scores of other municipalities in Michigan, we are fighting for our life. Like every city in Michigan, a spiraling confluence of economic setbacks has caught up with us. Let me remind you of what they are. Like every other city, with unemployment up, All forms of revenue are affected as people pay less income tax, as they spend less in our businesses, as they seek relief from property taxes, as they lose homes to foreclosure, and as businesses close as a consequence. With the state of Michigan in a downward spiral because of these same issues, legislators are keeping more and more of the revenue-sharing monies originally intended for municipalities. So city budgets are being slowly starved of an essential segment of their operating funds. In addition, our costs are continually rising. Legacy costs, repair and maintenance costs on an aging infrastructure, rising unemployment costs, insurance costs that are being raised by the double digits. The combination of these factors alone threatens cities across the state with insolvency. For us, though, there are some additional problems. With the end of production in the Hamtramck portion of American Axle, the city has lost about $500,000 a year in income tax alone, on top of property tax losses from the closed plant. But the potential death blow for us, if I can be so dramatic, is the issue we are having with the city of Detroit over our portion of tax revenue from GM's Detroit Hamtramck assembly, the Poletown plant. 30 years ago, in 1980, Hamtramck was reeling from the news that Dodge, Maine would close, taking thousands of jobs and the city's main economic engine, and in fact, Hamtramck's historic reason for being. The Poletown project, in all its controversy, was offered to us then as a lifeboat. And now, in 2010, we are being thrown out of that lifeboat. The boat itself is seaworthy. Hell. All we hear is that Hamtramck will be building the Chevy Volt, that Hamtramck is adding another line, that Hamtramck holds the future for GM, maybe for the whole domestic auto industry. God knows I hope it does, and I wish GM every success. We should then have reason for optimism, right? But instead, it's the Hamtramck Poletown plant that may be our undoing. Here's why in the shorthand version. Because the Poletown plant straddles the Detroit-Hamtramck border, with no production actually taking place on the Hamtramck side, we have a payment in lieu of taxes agreement, a pilot agreement with the city of Detroit, in which property taxes for the plant are collected by Detroit, which then distributes our portion according to a contractual formula. In something of a replay of the issue you may remember we had with Wayne County over our jail pilot a few years ago, Detroit is contesting our portion and withholding all payment until the matter is settled. Things get quite complicated from there, and we're in negotiations with the city of Detroit over this issue, and I have to say that they've been very open to discussion with us. But the bottom line is simply that while those talks continue, we are not being paid, and that the budgets we've passed rely on spending down our hard-earned budget stabilization fund to make up the difference. That is an unsustainable strategy, which by best estimate will deplete the fund and send us into deficit spending and thus into receivership by the first quarter of 2011. And we all know what that's like. Only now, what department remains that an emergency financial manager could outsource? A viable alternative to raise taxes to the allowable level under state law, a strategy more and more cities have been forced to consider, was rejected by council. Other alternatives, which could buy us some time, including union concessions, have at this point fallen through, resulting in layoffs scheduled to take effect tomorrow. In the meantime, non-union employees have taken a pay cut and suffered layoffs. But that is not nearly enough to plug the hole. So now you know what keeps me up at night, and no doubt dogs the sleep of our city manager and our finance director as well. This is the state of our city. In some ways, it's what it's always been. Proud, stubborn, hardworking, hardscrabble, death-defying. We are made up of good people, and we're building a good place here. We have to keep building it. There really is no acceptable alternative. And our assets, the things we love about this place, the things that attract new people here and that keep it strong in the hearts of even those people whose lives have taken them elsewhere, those assets remain and need our nurturing. 30 years ago, faced with the Dodge Main disaster, Mayor Kozarin began what has evolved into the Hamtramck Labor Day Festival to bring the community together in a celebration of shared identity and loyalty to place, to neighborhood, to history, and to continuity. Hamtramckans back then had a lot to celebrate, and Hamtramckans of today have no less, and maybe more. We have come through another 30 years of ups and downs, of hope and uncertainty, gone in and out of receivership, and another generation and more has come to make this place its home. This year, I've been hearing a lot of rumors about the festival, since the events coordinator position was one of those lost in this year's budget cuts. And although she's not here, I want to take this opportunity to publicly thank Eve Doster for the fantastic first-class job she did for us in the short time she was here. On Konchki Day, on the festival, on the international bazaars, on cleanups, on the swearing-in ceremony, and on so many other events, big and small, that she put together for the city. So let me tell everyone again that the Labor Day Festival is on, and let me issue a challenge to you. Like last year, the festival will be run by the city, and this year it will be organized by a committee of residents chaired by Kathleen Bittner of the Polish Art Center, and assisted by Rachel Karpinski-Schrodek. It will be run on a shoestring, but we're good at that. In fact, it gives us an opportunity to return to our roots and show just what Hamtramckans are made of. The theme of this year's festival is homegrown, and we're looking for local entertainers, for local vendors, and of course for local volunteers. Please call the Polish Art Center to get involved. We don't have a lot of time, we've got a lot to do, but we've got reason to think we can have a fantastic festival this year. In past years, I've stressed the importance of the individual choices we all make every day in supporting, sustaining, and improving our neighborhoods and our city. How important it is to get involved in your local block club or neighborhood watch group. How important it is to spend your money here in Hamtramck, to attend local events, to get to know your neighbors and your neighborhood businesses, even when it means traveling out of your comfort zone. How important it is to look out for each other. There are many simple day-to-day ways we can all build community. Be a good neighbor. Sit on your porch. Take a stroll up and down Campo. Pick up some trash. Stop for ice cream. Say hello to your neighbor. And even better, learn to say hello in your neighbor's language. The list is long, and you all know ways to make it longer. But this year I'm going to add another item. Get involved in the Hamtramck Festival. We need you. Your ideas, your input, and your presence all matter. This will not be an easy year for us, if there has ever been such a thing here in Hamtramck. but it could be a pivotal one in which we prove our mettle and craft a viable future for ourselves from the ground up. There is a whole lot going on here, and even more that needs to happen. You know what those things are. You may even have an idea of how to make them happen. Now is the time when your ingenuity, goodwill, and drive are most needed. Hamtramck exists not because somebody way back in time created it, not because somebody voted to incorporate as a city in 1922. It exists because we recreate it according to our own needs and desires every day we live here. You hold it together in thought and make it manifest in deed. Thank you for doing that. Dziękuję. Fala Mendel. Shukran. Dhanyabad. Fala Spasibi. Thank you and take heart. This is our little city, and it's worth working on together in fellowship with each other and with faith in the future we create. Thank you. Thanks, everybody. I invite you all to stay, chat, have something to eat, and talk to each other.